All right, we are back, part two. I hope everyone was able to listen to last week. We have Rudy Sarzo. I am so stoked, man. You are delving deep. And like you said, you're an open book. And I just love that. Thank you for everyone that is following us. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. We were just talking about the amazing experience of your life that, coming from Cuba, you're coming here, and then now you had joined it. What we'd found like a culture of oneness through music, and I think that's so important. I know for myself, when trying to find myself, it was through bandmates. It was through the music genre that all of a sudden lines were blurred, they were gone. It's like, oh, you like that band? Oh, I like that band. Oh, cool. We can all be friends. And it just became a cultural thing. It's crazy though, right?
Yeah,
It,
no,
it
it's very
is
true.
really neat, dude. And I just wanted to let you continue on, Rudy. Just like that experience. We now just left off you now finding that everyone and you decide you want to be in a band.
Yeah, I mean, there was no question about it. And I found I found my way into humanity because I wasn't an island anymore. I wasn't isolated from everything around me. I wa- I the f- When I got to New Jersey, I was still Rudolph because my name is Rodolfo in Cuba. Then I came to the United States. I became Rudolph, and then in my first day in school, uh, I got in. We were relocated a little bit late in the year, the school year, so all the seats were taken, and there was one empty one in the back room of the classroom. And I'm walking in, and I'm putting my books in the desk, and I hear the teacher saying, "Rudy, Rudy," and I'm like, I never heard that word before. So I'm not paying attention. And finally, he won't shut up. So I just look up and he goes, "Yes, you." And I go, "No, Rudolph." And he says, "No, you're Rudy from now on." Okay.
And there it
Y-
goes.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
dare
You know,
he, actually?
yeah.
That's
Well, it was
crazy.
back then. It was back then. Back then. And again, I've been in the country for now 2 years. So that's 1963. And I've been through worse things than that.
Yeah, right.
you
Yeah,
know,
I get
so
it.
that was like that. You know that Pete Davidson character that he plays that he just goes on, okay, and he just goes along with whatever is happening.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was pretty much me back then. Anything that went on, okay, because I had so many barriers. I had a language barrier. I had a cultural, ethnic barrier. I had a status barrier. I wasn't a citizen. I was a refugee. So it's like all these things going,
Yeah.
not in my favor. Then I say, okay, I have to adapt. I have to embrace, and I have to go with the flow. Because remember, by then, that's when Kennedy got shot, and it's like everything changes. Like, okay, it's like watching your ship burning right there, at the beach. And you're not gonna get off this island.
Yeah.
you
Wow, man.
you know. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to like now I'm gonna have to build a hut and look for some coconuts so I can eat. How am I gonna survive? So it's as somebody who became a refugee at a very early age, almost a teenager, I gotta say, I was very much in touch with my survival, living in survival mode at home, in school, everywhere I went. I was completely in survival mode, which really helped me later on when I set out to be a starving musician, hit the road to, you
Yeah.
know, to get to do what I got to do, because I learned some skills. And so my family moved back down to Miami because after 3 years, my mom just got really depressed with it's too much snow and being isolated from the rest of her family who were still in Miami. So we moved back down, and now I am a musician, but within the Latin culture. There was no Anglo influence in the bands that I was, there were no Americanos in the bands that I was playing with, because I was playing back, I went back to the Cuban neighborhood in Miami. And yes, we're playing rock and roll, but with a bunch of Cubans, you know. And what happened was that it's, see, when, in my, in the early 60s, Latin culture, there were, being a teenager in the Latin culture, you were expected to follow in your parents' footsteps, your
Mm.
father. If he did certain things, you were going to do that. That was the family way. It went back to Cuba. That's how things were done in Cuba, you know. And for me to all of a sudden become a professional musician was like,
What?
in a
What?
rock band, what? What? That ain't gonna happen. So even my bandmates, who were actually Cubans, who a lot of them had not been relocated. That's all they knew. They knew Cuba, and then they knew Miami, which was like the new Cuba, And it was like, no, there's no way you're ever gonna be playing with these musicians from England, or even from the United States. You're Cuban. You're supposed to be playing Cuban music. I said, no, I know better. I just came from New Jersey. Yeah, I know what's going on out there. You
Say it's
know.
all about the jersey.
Telling
Yes,
you.
yeah, so it's all about Jersey. Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's it's that now that I think about it, if I would have never been in New Jersey, I would have never believed that I was capable of doing what I actually accomplished, because I was surrounded by naysayers
Hmm.
who had not
So you're
experienced
making
that.
you're making Jen really happy because Jen's in Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Where in Jersey are you?
Born and raised. I'm outside of Atlantic City, so I'm south
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jersey. Yeah, but it's you're just surrounded by like people who are here, stay
Yeah.
here. They don't go
Yeah.
anywhere else,
Yeah.
and it can be limiting when you have big goals and dreams, and everyone's just like, yeah, it's probably not gonna happen, you know.
Yeah. But by me moving to being relocated to New Jersey, we experienced, my family experienced the multi-ethnic experience in a neighborhood. We were surrounded by all these different
Hmm.
ethnicities. And in Cuba, yes, we had Chinese and we had Jewish families have come from Poland during World War II, escaping the Nazis, and of course the African influence and culture that were integral to our country. Uh, you didn't have a whole multi-ethnic experience like you would in New York City.
Hmm.
You had everybody, the whole world moving, you know, to that part of the United States, and you learn so much. You learn, what I learned the most was that we all want the same thing. We wanted to love, to be loved, to take care of our family, and have a relationship with God, because religion was a very big part of the family unit, you know, especially back then, which is my theory. That's why we had so many great singers that came out of that era, because everybody went to church and everybody learned how to sing in church. You know,
Very
Oh,
true.
I would agree with you.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
without any help of auto tune or anything like that. It was like you're singing, and that's if you look at radio back then was full of vocalists who had learned how to sing in church. If you listen to all of Motown, everybody sang in church. You listen to
Yep.
Aretha Franklin, Elvis. Elvis learned how to sing by
Oh
going
yeah.
to
Oh
black
yeah.
churches. You know, it's like, and now it's kind of like kids, this generation stays in their bedroom and they sing in their bedroom, and they write music about being isolated in your bedroom and having the social media be your
Audience.
outlet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It might be working for them, but I've had such a whole different reference of you have to get out of your house in order to feel that you are alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're much closer to the Matrix, the experience of the Matrix, where you have all these people in a bubble and
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
incubated, and they're plugged in, and they're experiencing life somehow, but their bodies are actually in this pod. You know, that to me is what it.
In a simulation.
Yeah, yeah, simulate. Yeah, being in a simulation. Exactly. Whereas back in the day, if you wanted to accomplish anything, you got to get out of your house and go somewhere and be part of something.
Yeah.
Rudy, again, I can't thank you enough for being just so open and honest about this. And this is one thing that I'm really hoping that with younger generations that they're rediscovering that there's something about a bond about being in a band with people. You had mentioned about like those become your brothers. And there's things that I want to touch on because I understand this being in a band myself. Um, but you've got an invite that we want to get to that is pretty huge, man. It's freaking history. We're going to be talking about Ozzy Osbourne. We'll be right back. You are listening to Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. All right, we are back, Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. While we were taking a break, you know what, Brett, you brought up a really good point. You know what? I'm just going to let you ask. You ask Rudy straight out, man.
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to be the one to answer. I want to know what it's like to be on the #1 record in America.
It would have been a different experience for me if it wasn't that the year before that happened. Well, in 1981, 82, I was playing with Ozzy Osbourne, and I experienced with him a similar uh, climb to the very top, you know, and it what happened with Quiet Riot was that we were taking similar steps towards the top. And so step by step, I kept going. I looked at it and went, "Oh wow, we're at this level now. We sold so many records. We are touring with. We started with the Scorpions, then we did the Oz Festival in
Oh, yeah.
1983. Yeah,
Wow.
and we did. Then we toured with ZZ Top, Loverboy, then
Wow.
Iron Maiden, and
Oh my
then
God.
by the time we toured with Black Sabbath in November of 1983, we had the #1 record. But in between that, there there was so much work nonstop making videos.
Yeah.
Our daily routine was we we
MTV.
we we would go from whatever, let's say we were driving from one city to the next, and we will wake up in our tour bus in the city that we were going to play that night, and we will be in the parking lot of the local radio station, and then we get up at 8:30 to do the drive time with the DJ, pump the show, pump also our in-store record store in-store appearance. And so we would like do all of that with the radio station, promote the record, go to a room, take a shower, get some lunch, drive to the in-store at a mall, sign for about an hour, hour and a half, because the bigger the band got, the longer the line got, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to take care of everybody. Then make it to the gig for our 5 o'clock sound check, because the headliner would do the sound check first. Then we have to wait for them to get done, and then by 5 o'clock we would do a sound check. Then, but we were done by 5:30. Doors open, and we hit the stage about an hour or two later, and do it all over again the next day. That was every single day we did
Wow.
that. Right. So I mean, you're noticing how things are improving as far
Yes.
as the gigs are getting bigger, you're getting
Lines
more
are getting
people at the install.
longer. Yep.
Yeah, all of that. So by the time you get to #1, the record was released in March. So by November, we went to #1. we're not even thinking about that we're number one. Now we're thinking about, my God, now we're going to have to start headlining on one record.
Oh wow.
And a headliner usually does about an hour and 15 to 90-minute set. You have to. You're the headliner. We didn't have. I mean, we had songs, but they were not on the record. So we were playing a lot of stuff that either wound up on the second record or stuff that nobody ever heard on a record, but we had those songs written, that never made it to the mental health record. So that was our biggest concern. What are we going to do now? And then we got pulled off the road when we were headlining by the record company that said, "Hey, listen, guys, we need another record from you guys." This is the 1984, and we were still touring for mental health back then. Uh, you guys, by contract, you had to release a record by this time, and so now we're rushing into the studio to
Pressure.
get the record done. Oh yeah, it was all completely. I mean, we were going bonkers. If it wasn't that I have found a spiritual center even before I started playing with Ozzy. I made peace with God about my future, whether it was gonna be whatever it was gonna be. My relationship with God was the most important thing in my life, and I was sleeping on the floor at this time, and I had my strongest spiritual belief, that I've ever had, at that point. And so that helped me navigate some questionable things that were happening around me, because I always had my spiritual center to, like, keep me going on the right path. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for that, I would have probably be a casualty, just like many other people have been. Maybe not dead, but pretty much, you
Ruined.
know,
Anyway,
you know,
ruined,
Not
yeah,
thriving.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's
between and I met my wife in 1981, so we've been together ever since, and she's been my rock, you know, and my spirituality, and my family and everything, and my so I am very, very blessed to have that, that community, that communion with in my life, with my family and my faith. But it wasn't easy,
What can I ask a question? Because you were in so
Mhm,
many the list of bands that you were on is
mhm,
all the
mhm,
top bands on the
mhm.
planet,
And the
right?
fact
Like
that
all the
you
top
actually know what these bands are is very impressive because Victoria does not know
Mhm.
anything about
well,
music.
okay,
So
but
if
let me
she's impressed,
no,
that means
I do know the bands, and I'll tell you why, because it wasn't ever my job. I was in Duran Duran and I was punk rock, but my stepfather was huge rock and roll, heavy metal. So we were Twisted Sister, all of this. He had the stereo. He was always doing the mixtapes. He had albums. He was playing it all the time. It was embarrassing to have my friends over. When I went to go visit my real father from California to Massachusetts, went to Boston one summer. It was like 1983 or whatever it was. And in my Christmas, I was there for Christmas, and in my Christmas stocking, I got a Quiet Riot tape. And I remember going, why would they think I wanted this tape? And I'm like, whatever. I probably wore that tape out. I became a
Aw.
huge, I didn't want to tell anybody, but I did every song on both sides was just like it, and I like Duran Duran and Flock of
Yeah,
Seagulls.
me too.
all right.
Is
Yeah,
way out of my
yeah.
genre, but that and it kind of opened the door for me to like some other bands. But my question to you was, how do you go from one band to the other? Do these bands go, okay, we got to get this guy, and they pull you away? Or I mean, how do you go from band to band and not stay with one band? Does it get you get unbusy and then you're like, okay, I want to be busy, and so someone pulls you over? I mean, is it like football where they draft you? I mean, what happens
Okay, it's very simple in my case. Uh, I joined Ozzy, and the reason why I was able to join Ozzy is because when they were looking for a bass player, Randy Rhoads, I had already played with him in Quiet Riot. So he goes from
yeah.
that version of Quiet Riot in the 70s to Ozzy, and then Randy recommends me. I was sleeping on the floor when I got the phone call to join the band. And the following day, I did the audition, and I moved in with Sharon and Ozzy into their mansion
Oh,
in
wow.
in the Hollywood Hills. And they brought me into the family. It was a very tight circle. It's like this
Yeah.
big of
Yeah.
people, trust, a circle of trust. And to be a part of that, I mean, it was like if you're in that circle, it's very few people got inside that circle. And it was incredible, and they treated me wonderful. So when Randy died in the plane crash,
Mm.
that
Yeah.
took away the joy of me making music. He was my not only responsible for me being there, but as a musical genius, a brother, and somebody who I was beginning to share with him a journey, a musical journey. You see, when I joined Ozzy already was famous. He already been with
Yeah.
Black Sabbath.
Right.
Tommy Aldrich already been, in his own band just as long as Ozzy. He was in a band called Black Oak, Arkansas, and then he was in Pat Travers. So these were seasoned veterans.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Randy and I, we were just starting out, and I lost that. I lost that connection of what I needed to build something on my own to be a part of that building process, of like you sign a record deal, you get in a station wagon, and then you get the Winnebago, and then you get a tour bus that it was toxic because the fumes were leaking. You have to go through that process, like
Right.
working for it, doing all those radio stations,
Yep.
spot every morning and signing records and do that. And then you say, yes, we did this, we built that, and I needed to do that, and I needed to find the joy of making music. So my reference was to go back with Kevin Dubrow, who at that time had a band called Dubrow, and I had been playing with Kevin and lived with him up until when I joined Ozzy. And then Frankie Benelli, our drummer, I had a history with him that went back 10 years prior to me
Oh, okay.
recording on the record Metal Health. We were in Florida, and we escaped disco, and we moved to Chicago. And in 1977, we wound up in LA together and trying to put a band together. And then we ran out of money. And then I came back in 78. So yeah, that was 77. And then in 78, I came back and I joined Quiet Riot. So finally, here we are, 1982. We're in the studio, and I was still a member of the Ozzy band, and getting ready to go to New York to record Speak of the Devil, which is the Black Sabbath re-recordings by Ozzy.
Yeah.
And I went in the studio just to do one song for a possible record deal with Dubrow, and it was a song called Thunderbird that Kevin wrote for Randy when Randy left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy. And then that camaraderie of being with Kevin and Frankie and the guitar player Carlos. I had never met him before, but I heard of him because he was in a band called Snow, and we played the same circuit, you know. And so that brought the joy back of making music. And it's all down to that. If you're not a joyful in a playing situation, you got to get it back, because making music and being miserable, that that wasn't part of my plan. I
Right.
first comes the joy of making music, and then the success will follow.
Who was
And
after Ozzy? Who
I'm
came after
sorry.
Ozzy after you did Quiet Riot?
Oh, Quiet Riot with Randy, then Ozzy, then I went back and for the mental health version of the band got renamed Quiet Riot when I rejoined the band.
Okay.
Up until that, it was called Dupro, and then I mean,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and then Quiet Riot. I mean, Whitesnake opened up for Quiet Riot in 1984, and that's when I got to meet all the guys, especially David Coverdale. So uh, I left Quiet Riot in 1985, and by 87, I joined Whitesnake. We already knew each other. There was nobody left in the band except for the singer, David Coverdale. And that's how I got to join the band. I have only left one of the bands once, and that was Quiet Riot in 1985. When I left Ozzy, it was because like I said, I needed to get the joy of making music again. Here I am leaving one of the biggest bands in the world for the complete unknown, Quiet Riot. No promise about whatever was going to happen with that band, except that I knew my only promise was that I was going to be happy playing music again. You know, so that's been basically my trajectory. Then later on, I joined Dio and got to play with Blue Oyster Cult and Guess
Wow,
Who and so on. Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
definitely delve into the experience that's coming up for you. I mean, those tickets sold out in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Ozzy
Yeah,
Osbourne's farewell.
yeah,
Yeah, he's going to be
yeah,
playing with Black Sabbath, and then when
yeah.
I heard that they had called you and
Mm,
Jakey Lee, I'm like, oh,
mm,
this is going to be sick. This is
yeah.
so fun. And I mean,
Wait, this is
I'm like,
coming up?
yeah, this is this summer.
Uh, July 5th. Yeah, July
Well,
5th.
we
Yeah,
want to come.
yeah.
I gotta get there.
Yeah, yeah, July 5th. And
Me and Rudy said,
I actually got a text a few months before that from Tom Morello, who is the music director, he's putting the whole thing together of all the bands, the
Tom Morello
musicians,
from
and
Rage Against
yeah,
the Machine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that in the text, it was explained to me that Ozzy and Sharon, wanted me to be part of this, and I was deeply touched. I was like, I
can
wasn't,
Ozzy
yeah,
still sing? Can he still sing?
yeah. I just heard his latest release, and he sounds great. You
Okay.
know, so it's like, okay, yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I think what he had said it's just the touring aspect is the hard
Right.
part.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
that
mean,
is, that
like Diggory's
yeah,
explaining, man, people think that tour life and being in a band is easy. And like, oh yeah, man, what a cool thing! You just get to
no,
party all the time and just go play music.
no,
Nah, nah,
no,
you end
no,
up with this freaking like schedule that's insane from morning to
yeah,
night. And that's
yeah,
a lot. That takes a lot out, man. I
yeah,
can understand it.
His
yeah,
granddaughter went. Is it granddaughter or grandson? Granddaughter went to school with my daughter, and they had a singing thing, like where we all went, like a performance. And he showed up with Sharon and one. I think it was Kelly. Anyways, he showed up and he had a handler with him. He could barely walk. He had a handler with him to carry his bottle of Jack Daniels to a 7-year-old
Amazing.
performance.
yeah,
So 6 and 7-year-olds, and so and he sat right in front and he had his shot. It was an endless. He was drinking through the whole.
yeah,
Yes.
And he looked very Ozzy Osbourne too, with the whole chrome hearts and the whole. It was friggin' hysterical. It was
yeah.
hysterical.
I mean, with Ozzy, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, no, for sure. He
On
was
and
like,
off the stage, it's
that's
you
what he was
know,
doing. And
it's
nobody even. It was like, oh well, it's Ozzy. So like we're having coffee and donuts, and he's over there, like no big deal. Nobody. It was just like, well, that's just how it is. Some people just get a
yeah,
pass. You're just used to their personality being a certain way, like half with all the girlfriends. It's just like how it is. So
yeah. And I got to spend. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was one tour bus, everybody, and like I mentioned, I moved in with them, so I was like,
yeah,
no matter where I went, we were together.
yeah,
And so we got to know each other, and I had a lot of questions because culturally, I had never been in a band with somebody from England,
yeah,
and me being so influenced by the British invasion, that to me it was always magical.
yeah.
E-
Sure.
Everything looked like to me that era was black and white because that's all we saw. It was all in black and white, and there's a certain romanticism to the
Yeah,
way
sure.
black and white looks. Uh, there was no color; it was just black and white, and so I got to ask him a lot of questions, and it turns out that he was born shortly after World War II ended. Now, if you recall, England was bombed
Yep.
nightly by the Blitzkrieg. So, living in Birmingham, for him to play outside the house, he would go into the rubble of buildings that had been bombed. That was his playground, and it was,
Good photo
yeah,
shoot.
yeah, and the country was trying to recover economically.
Oh yeah.
Factories, trying to get back on track again. So there was like right there in the middle of like industrial England. I mean, think about it. This is where heavy metal was born. It was dark, it was heavy,
Yeah.
but it was the music that reflected this is how they grew up with
Yeah.
this outlook in life. And here I am. I'm from the Caribbean, and, I, and outside of New Jersey, I lived in Miami. So I'm listening to like heavy
Yeah.
metal, but it's all sunny, and everybody's like, everybody's wearing skimpy clothing, and everybody's happy and dancing. And I'm listening to heavy metal, and it just somehow it did not make sense to me until I left that sunny environment,
Sure.
that I grew up in, because I mean, Miami was a destination
Yeah.
for all the groups, basically because it's a port of entry. So they used to
Oh,
bring in, back in the day, they would, in the 60s and 70s, bring all the equipment with them on a boat. They'll ship it. So it
Oh,
would come in through either the port of Miami or Fort Lauderdale. So they would start or end the tour there. And everybody played there. I mean, I saw like Led Zeppelin's first night of the tour. Jimi Hendrix played a lot in that area. There were a lot of
ah.
festivals that Jimi Hendrix played. Cream, you name it.
wow.
Everybody, The Who, Queen. So
Did you take a lot of pictures?
yeah, they were all on my iPhone back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know, but did you have a camera? Did you take any
Queen,
photos?
think about it. How many our youth could not afford cameras back then? We
I
had to use
know.
our parents' camera, and they would say, "No, you're gonna
Polaroid.
break it."
Right.
So
Polaroids.
now, it was different back then.
Yeah, I know for sure. Let me ask you this, Ozzy Osbourne, did you find it because he has such a thick accent and he
Yeah.
mumbles quite a bit? And you have an accent, so I can imagine you guys talking to each other. Was there ever even though you're speaking English, was there ever a language barrier? Like, was it hard to understand him, or did you get used to him talking?
No, but Lemmy was very hard to understand. Motorhead was the first opening band that we had on that tour. Def Leppard was the second, and Lemmy was very hard to understand.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, sometimes that English, that real hard English accent, sometimes I'm like, I can't like in the way they phrase things is totally la, 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 you're like, I don't know what you just said.
Yeah, and the colloquial too.
It's
Yeah, the
exactly.
lexicon. Yeah, the certain words that they use was really alien to me. And you know what? Me being Latino, I was born in, I was born in Cuba, and little by little, my identity was taken away from me. Who I
Sure.
am, I had to by adaptation. It was a matter of survival skills,
You
right?
became a Jersey boy, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. West New York,
I'm talking about
yeah,
you.
yeah. But the only thing that is really left, pure Cuban, is my accent,
Yeah.
and I choose not to get rid of it because I
Good.
gotta keep something.
It's not super heavy though. You don't have a heavy accent.
Oh
You do have an accent though. You definitely have
no,
an
no.
accent.
If you let Brian and I talk in Spanish, it'll come back.
Rudy, I can't thank you enough for being just so open and honest again, and just sharing. Aussie show is going to be sick. I know everyone's looking forward to it. But
We're going.
you said you're an open book, and I just want to say, can you share what it? I just know because I lost my buddy Dean, and who is the drummer of our band. And when you build that bondship of brothers, you bands where you've lost a lot of close brothers. When you think of Randy, Dio, Frankie, Kevin, dude, it's like, is there something that I
Oh.
know for me, like right now I'm producing and I'm like, I'm doing it for you, Dean. Is there something when you're out on stage and you think about your brothers that like when you're like, hey, I'm still here and you think about them?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the first time that I actually go on the road with any band, but this being Quiet Riot, where I have a purpose. My purpose is to I'm talking about a purpose higher than just being out there and rocking out, which was like the first
Yes.
reason why you're doing it. My purpose is to celebrate the legacy of the band and the memory of Frankie Banali, Kevin DuBrow, and Randy Rhoads every night on stage. This is what we do, you know. And actually doing that makes it easier for me to travel because it's not just about me getting to the gig. It's about me. Okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be okay because we are gonna do this on stage tonight. We're gonna make it, and we do. We make it. We get there, and we get to experience that. So, and to be honest with you, I did not have those tools when Randy died. The only thing that I knew was that I need to get away from playing with Ozzy because getting on stage every night with Ozzy was going to bring back all these memories that Randy's not there anymore. I did not know, I did not understand about the importance of celebrating your bandmates, celebrating their music, to
Yeah.
keep playing it because if you don't, nobody else is going to play it with the same you are an original. You were there. You shared these moments with them, whether it's the moment that the person you're working on that song, you're recording that song, you're going on stage and performing it for the first time. Every step of the way you're there with them, and nobody is going to be as real as you are going to be playing those songs.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You nailed it. Exactly. I I hope you can come join us again. I know you
My
got
pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, in July.
your tour with Quiet
Yeah.
Riot. You're getting ready for the
You.
big show with Ozzy, and we'd love
Yeah.
to have you come back. And dude, I just got to say, as we wrap out, you've mentioned it multiple times. You know, your faith, your spirituality. I love the fact that you're just so open with it. I mean, there's been times where I've been down in the dumps, and I'll see your Facebook post, and I've texted you. I'm like, thank you for that, man, because I was in a down low, and seeing you just being out there, it's you're like a warrior. You know what I mean? To me, you've helped me a lot. So thank you, man. I just
Thank
want
you,
you to know
Brian.
you really do touch people, man. You touch me, bro. You really do.
Okay.
And so I can't wait till you come back. Good luck on the show, dude.
Thank you,
And we
Brian.
love you, bro. We are wrapping out. We are Rogue Bunnies Mayhem. We have had the one and only Rudy Sarzo. I am Brian Olea.
I'm Jennifer Pershing.
And I'm Victoria Fuller.